you know, I'm trying to get all the shit. Unveiling, Chairman Alumni, Dr. Wilson, the president here, Mayor Pugh, and they're going to be all this stuff. They come up great guy though. I love Bruce.
I loved him. He had his ways.
Yes, he did. Old football coach.
Old football coach. Old football.
That's just what he was.
I got to see.
Always the best.
They're killing it. They're killing it. I mean, today was a good day. Today was a good day.
That's a lock. I went to the back door, but it was locked. It was locked. What's up? What's up, man? How you doing? Hey, hold on. Let me see if you know what this is. Oh, man. Who cooked that? Huh?
Ask Roger if he could bring out some bottled water, because I sent it to McFadden and just asked him.
That's dark brew. You know, you don't know a dark brew.
Down there, hey! How are you? Look at you! I tell you, it's a long time right now. That's not her. And stuff. Look at you!
Nice old over here.
No,
Can I have your attention? Can I have your attention, please?
The mayor is coming. We're really ready.
As soon as we'd like to get started with the program, as soon as the mayor comes in, please. So if everyone can take a seat. Loud.
I need to go to my seat. Oh, you sit
Hey, Earl.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just sitting there.
Sure.
I'm sorry. No, I wasn't going to do that. No, I know
Sure.
that. Sure.
Sure. Uh-oh.
Hey, Ray.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Morgan State University. My name is Joe McIver. I'm the Assistant Athletic Director here at Morgan State. And I work for Coach Banks. And I knew Coach Hurt very well. And if some of you don't know, I want to start by saying Coach Banks was a great public speaker. And during my time of traveling with him, I had the opportunity to be with him and great coaches as Eddie Robinson, Willie Jeffries, Jake Gafers. And one of the things I asked him about was, as a great speaker, what do you do as a great speaker? And he said, Joe, to be a great speaker, one of the things you need to do is have a story. So I'm going to give you my story about how I came to be standing in front of you today. About a month ago, President Wilson, Vice President Cheryl Hitchcock, and Athletic Director Ed Scott were planning this event. And they said, who can we have to preside over this activity? And Dr. Wilson, being the great president that he is in his presidential way, he said, I know who we can have. We're going to have the brightest mind at Morgan State University. So we went to the brightest mind, and he turned him down. So our athletic director, he said, well, this is an athletic event, so we're going to have the most athletic person in the history of Morgan State University. So they went to the most athletic person in Morgan State history, and he turned him down. So Ms. Hitchcock, in the way that only she could do, she said, this is a marketing opportunity. So we're going to get the best looking person on Morgan's campus. So they went to the best looking person on Morgan's campus, and here I am. I really felt that I owed it to him since I turned him down 2 times before. But let me say, I'm very honored to stand before you, the 2 men who were great mentors to me. And I know you think that I was probably too young to know Eddie P. Hurt, but I knew him. As a young man, my grandfather was a dean here at Morgan State, James Nix, and they were pinochle. They played cards together every Tuesday night. So as a young man, I used to be in the room while they were playing pinochle. And then when I became the first sports information director here at Morgan State, I used to hang out with Coach Hurt in football practices. He would drive from Morgan Park over to the football practice, which was, at that time was held behind Hill Fieldhouse where the tennis courts are. And we would stand next to the fence and he would tell me about Roosevelt Brown, about Brutus Wilson. And some of you probably don't know, but Morgan had 4 horsemen. And he would tell me about the 4 horsemen. I tell you, he could tell you everything that went on 40 years ago. Unfortunately, he couldn't remember what happened yesterday. But Eddie Hurt, when he walked in, when he talked to you, you would listen. You listened to what he said. And what can I say about Earl Banks? I worked for Earl Banks for 15 years. And Coach Banks was a great mentor to me. He was someone, of course, everyone knows when he walked in the room, you knew he was there. And one of the things I was just talking to Raymond about was, I used to always remember coming and watching him football practice when he coached. And he would put 13 men on defense, and he would tell the defense, and it would be George Knott. He said, the count is on 2, we're coming through this hole, and you gotta stop it. And George would be running the ball, and he would get through it, they couldn't stop it. Coach was probably one of the best offensive line coaches you'll ever meet. So let's get moving with the program. First, we're going to have our invocation. It's going to be brought to us by the Reverend Dr. Bernard Keels.
If you look to the sky, you will see heroes. You will see the meaning of what legends have become. Because of then, we have arrived at now. Because of Eddie Hurt and Earl Banks, those of you who wear so proudly the Morgan Star of Excellence have become. But it was God who birthed them in their mother's wombs and said, go and show excellence in the midst of those who say you are deficient. Go and show promise in the midst of those who say you have no future. Go and show that you are indeed God's elect and God's anointed, because you are the ones that will make the men who go to the Hall of Fame. You are the ones who will make the men who will go from the gridiron to the studio to become a sculptor. Who but a Morgan can produce that kind of excellence? Who but a Morgan can make these young men now who are currently playing football look and see those of you who have the age and have the experience and have the expertise to say that it's more than 10 yards in a cloud of dust? Ultimately, it's about understanding your purpose, understanding the promise, and fulfilling the program for which you were destined to be. And so we thank from up above those warriors who this day, even in their humility, say, I can't believe they still recognize and realize what we did with so little. Can we imagine it from the Colored Intercollegiate Athletic Association to the Hall of Fame? Some of you have come. God is not through with Morgan yet. This sesquicentennial will give birth to a new 150 years. Someone standing here may have their picture on this gated fence at some point. From the presidents before you, Dr. Wilson, to those who will come in the future, we are a glorious reminder of what God can do, what God is doing, and what God will do in the future. For we ask it in a name that is matchless. In the name of God we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Moving right along with the program, we'll bring the Honorable Kwasi Mfume, Chairman of the Board of Regents of Morgan State University.
I know. You can do better than that. Help my ego. Good morning, everybody. To all of you in the reserve seats and all of you out in the bleachers, hello. I've got a couple of quick things to do, and then I'm going to get out of the way for Dr. Wilson and the other people who are here. But I just want to thank everybody for being a part of this moment on behalf of our Board of Regents here at the university. And I'd like to acknowledge two members of the Board of Regents who are with us. Regent Winston Wilkinson, who's the chair of our athletic committee. And I'm told that Regent Marquise Walker, right in front of you. Hey, Marquise. Thank you both. So I'm here along with them just to say hello again and congratulations and thank you for coming out on behalf of the Board of Regents. To Dr. Wilson, thank you so much again. Dr. Wilson got here in 2010 and has distinguished himself in so many different ways. And I'm not blowing smoke here when I tell you, when you look around the landscape of colleges and universities generally, and when you look at the landscape of HBCUs specifically, Morgan did very, very well in selecting Dr. Wilson, whose energy, whose excellence, whose educational aspirations for students far exceed what his job requires. He's done a great job. We're all here in support of him and to thank him also for helping us to get to this day. He's got his own particular tale to tell you. I guess he'll tell you about what happened out at USC, as he told me. But it's going to be interesting. And I would ask also that in welcoming him that we also say thanks and welcome to our mayor, Mayor Catherine Elizabeth Pugh, formerly of Philadelphia, many, many years ago, an alumnus of this great school, and our dear and special mayor. Mayor, you're going to be up in a moment. My job is to thank everybody for making the effort to be here, and in doing so, I do want to say that this is our sesquicentennial year. From 1867 to today, 4 years after Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, this school came into being, and it is still here and still educating people and still growing. Senator Nathaniel McFadden is here with us today. He's on the program, so I'm not going to say very much except that Mac is like a dinosaur. He keeps popping up. He's been around a long time, and he's got some tales. So every time he gets to one of these events, he's got a new tale, and I'm sure we're going to get one today. But I want to thank you, Mac, for your support in Annapolis over many, many years, picking up the ball after Pete Rawlings and Clarence Blount passed on, and to thank, in her absence, Joan Carter Conway, also on the Senate side, who's done so much for the university. Now, Willie Lanier, who is in the Hall of Fame. You know, I took great pride, as some of you did, at the game when they brought all the Hall of Famers out, and I said, I know him, I know him, I know him. Willie was the former chair of our board, and I don't know where you are in the crowd, Willie, but if you can just kind of, there you are, behind the trash can. Okay. Boy, we do some placement here, don't we? Thank you for being out. You're on the program. I'm not going to try to steal your thunder here except to say you set great standards. And if you don't believe me, go ask anybody in Kansas City or go to Canton in the Hall of Fame and they'll tell you all about how special he is. Now, we also have members of the family of Dr. Hurt. Of the family members, can you raise your hands? You may not all get a chance to get recognized, but okay. And some in the back there, too. You know, what was so interesting about Coach Hurt was that he won 14 championships and had a record of 54 consecutive wins. Now, I don't know where you go to get that kind of expertise back in the day when it was very, very tough and things were a lot different. But those are great standards, and you can understand why one of these statues is in his honor. His great niece is going to be speaking here, Sherry Cunningway Craigway. Miss Cunningham Craigway? Okay. And his great niece, Dr. Jan Williams, is here. Jan? I'm just teasing. She's not a great niece. She's going to hit me in church tomorrow for saying this. But this is how we go at it. Thank you, Jan. Thank you. And what about the family members of Coach Banks? Can you kind of raise your hands and let us know where you are? Okay. Coach Banks coined the term the man. Now, you hear it all the time now, but in the 1960s, the first time I ever heard that, people were talking about Coach Banks. He's the man. He's the man. And he was the man, winning as he did over and over and over again, 31 consecutive games and a number of championships, and turning out 40 players that ultimately got to the NFL. Willie and another one, who was it, Willie? Leroy Kelly. both of whom made the Hall of Fame. So we are happy, and I'm happy because I actually knew Coach Banks. You know, he would, Coach, I said, but I'm not a basketball, football, or anything. And what I liked about him was he graveled at you, but he loved everybody. He had a heart that just loved everybody. And I was listening to Joe McIver up here talking about why he was chosen for this particular day. He was the greatest this and the greatest that. He's also the greatest liar, because if you believe those stories. Joe, I was just so glad to see you, man. We were here together many, many years ago. Thank you so much. And then I want to thank George Knapp, the sculptor. Man, you had a vision, just kind of kept it in your heart, nurtured it, allowed it to grow, and it's here today. And we want to thank you for that. And thank you for your time in the AFL and the NFL as a running back. But most of all, thank you for being an alumnus of this great school. Thank you very, very much. So Ed Scott, where are you? Our Director of Intercollegiate Athletics. You did a lot of research coming here to figure out what you were stepping into. This is just a part of it. It's just so much sports history and so many individuals and so many stories that I hope that as you get immersed further in it, you get imbued, like many of us, by this real spiritual sense that Reverend Keels talked about earlier, that goes beyond just 10 yards in a cloud of dust, but building athletes, young men and young women who will really change the world as this university changes them. So I'm going to get out of your way. You don't have to applaud for that, but you know, Kathy, you were a cheerleader, right? Yeah, Kathy P was cheerleading. Well, you know, I didn't know the cheerleading song, but I did learn the Morgan affirmation. Got it from hanging out on the bridge. But I graduated. So this is when I need everybody to help me with this. If you would just take the hand of the person near you or next to you. One hand, one person. No, sir. Uno, one. And repeat after me in that good old Morgan spirit. Hello, neighbor. Hello, neighbor. Hello, friend. Hello, friend. God has brought us, look at him, through thick and thin. And to our cause, we must be true. But I can't help it if I look better than you.
Well, AC, you know I love you, but I'm still the best looking. Next up is our illustrious president, Dr. David Wilson. I'd like to say a few things. Dr. Wilson came on campus about 6 years ago, and I tell you, he had the opportunity to go to the Citrus Bowl, I think about 2 years ago, with 10 members of the 1963 football team that played in the first 66 football team that played in the, we were the first HBCU school to play in a major bowl game. And those guys, they got Dr. Wilson. I tell you, they told Dr. Wilson so much about Morgan history. When he came back, he hit the road running. And the athletic department hasn't slowed down since. So I'd like to introduce you Dr. David Wilson, our president.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to take back that pledge, Swayze. I had no idea where you were leading us on that one. This is really another great day in the history of this great institution. And I'm really honored this morning as president of Morgan to be amongst so many great Morgan legends. I am honored to be amongst all of our elected officials, our mayor, as the chairman has indicated, Senator McFadden, and other elected officials. I'm honored to be amongst Chairman Mfume, chairman of our Board of Regents and other regents. I'm honored to be amongst our students, our faculty, our staff, our alumni from all over the globe who are making their way back to Alma Mater for this weekend to reunite and reacquaint
ourselves with our great history and our great legacy. But I'm really honored this morning to be here to dedicate this plaza in honor of the outstanding athletic history at Morgan State University. There are so few institutions on the landscape that can boast of having both an impressive academic and leadership legacy and without really missing a beat, having an equally impressive athletic history. But one of those institutions is this one, Morgan State University. And so Joe indicated that Coach Banks had said that a great public speaker, of course, is someone who has a story. But today, my story is really just simply about the history of these individuals that we are about to unveil. Today, we are here to honor really two of the greatest coaches, not only in Morgan State University history, but in my opinion, who are amongst the greatest legends in NCAA college football history. Let me repeat that, in NCAA college football history. And so Eddie Paulette Hurt and Earl Carly Banks put Morgan State University in the national football limelight by single-handedly shaping the lives and destinies of hundreds of young African-American student athletes. Many of those athletes that I have met, they came here because they were offered opportunities that so many of them were not offered anyplace else in this country. They came without scholarships. Many of them came with just a few dollars in their pockets. But they came in search of an education and a dream. And what they found here at Morgan were legends who took them under their wings, and they turned so many of them into NFL pros, and quite a few of them into NFL Hall of Famers. And so while we are gathered here this morning honoring Coach Hurt and Coach Banks today, I want everyone to know that this is really just the beginning of what will become a true athletic legends plaza. The plan is to include some of the greatest and best athletes and coaches ever to wear the Bear uniform. Such athletes include our 4 NFL Hall of Famers, of course, Willie Lanier, Leroy Kelly, Lynn Ford, and Roosevelt Brown. But in this area, in the future, will not only be our football legends, but you'll also see plaques and statues of such outstanding athletes as Marvin Webster, who, when he was drafted into the NBA, was drafted at number 3, which was to date the highest drafted HBCU player ever to go into the NBA. In this plaza, you'll also see Rochelle Stevens, Olympic gold medalist. You'll also see the likes of our famous women's basketball head coach, Effie Payne, who was one of the outstanding female coaches in Morgan history books. And let us not forget Joe Black, who was the first African American to pitch in the World Series. These are just some of the names that you'll see in the future in the form of plaques on these wrought iron fences that you see around this great plaza. But today, we are here to honor Edward P. Hurt and Earl C. Banks. And so let me begin with Coach Hurt, who served as Morgan head football coach and also as head track and field coach from 1930 to 1959. That is really unheard of in today's terms. His undefeated streak of 54 football games without a loss still ranks number 1 among all NCAA Division II teams. In track and field, Coach Hurt was a giant among men, having served as the head track and field coach for the 1960 United States Olympic team. And he is considered one of the greatest coaches ever to don the prestigious Penn Relay Track Carnival. His individual honors are too numerous to list at this time, but he was simply one of a few, very few HBCU coaches to be honored posthumously with the 2011 American Football Coaches Association Trailblazers Award, and he was inducted into the USA National Track and Field Hall of Fame in 1975 and the HBCU Hall of Fame in 1978. In 1952, Morgan State University named our gymnasium, here to my right, in his honor. Coach Eddie P. Hurt is the true definition of a Morgan legend, and his legacy will live on here in Legends Plaza. Please give a round of applause to Coach Hurt for all that he did for Morgan State University. Now, Coach Earl C. Banks' association with Morgan started in 1960 when he left what was then Maryland State University to become the Bears' head football coach. And I guess a man like me, in that he was 5 feet 8 inches tall. That's about as far as the comparison can go, actually. But at 5 feet 8, he's a native of Chicago, and he led Morgan to 14 consecutive winning seasons and an overall record of 96, 31, and 2, along with 4 bowl appearances. Morgan State's 31 consecutive win streak ties for 4th place among all NCAA Division II football programs to this day. Coach Banks took young men like Willie Lanier, like Leroy Kelly, like George Knott, like Bob Wade, and other raw talented young athletes, and he molded them into some of this country's finest leaders and scholars. Earl Banks was one of the founding fathers of the Morgan Grambling Football Classic, which, when we read Morgan history, we know that that classic drew over 64,000 fans to New York's Yankee Stadium. And in 1966, Morgan State became the first HBCU school, the first one, to play in a major football game when the Golden Bears defeated Westchester State University 14-6 in the Tangerine Bowl with only 26 players, because freshmen could not play in bowl games. Another remarkable feat of Coach Banks. Coach Banks was responsible, as you heard Chairman Mpume indicated, for 40 Morgan football players being drafted into the NFL. His teams were always tough on defense, as you heard Joe indicated, and they led the nation twice in total defense and once in rushing defense and scoring defense. That strength served them well in 1968 when they defeated the perennial powerhouse Grambling 9-7 in Yankee Stadium, and Coach Banks also served as the director of athletics, so they had these dual roles going on at that time until his retirement in 1987. Coach Earl Banks often repeated a motto to his players, I understand, and it was, "I shall rise from whence I came." Well, very few men, I think, can give the gift of giving and can keep on rising after they give that gift. And Coach Banks gave this gift of giving, and he kept on rising, and he gave all of these young men hope for the future. And we hope that our current students here at Morgan and future students that will come this way will be inspired by what they see in this plaza, and they too will keep on rising. And so, as I bring my remarks to a close, I want to say a word or two about how we got to this space. Because Kwaisi did indicate that I made a trip to USC. But there's a little bit before that. I think Senator McFadden, about 4 years ago, I was giving my State of the University update to the alumni board meeting in the Student Center. And the Baltimore Sun had carried an article shortly before that on George. And in that article, George had made a statement that he would actually be willing to donate his commission to basically do a sculpture for Coach Banks. And I had not met George, but I'm standing giving my update, and when it got to the Q&A, someone stood and said, "Mr. President, did you read the article in the Sun where Morgan alum George Knox has indicated that he would like to sculpt Coach Banks?" And I said no, and I was pretty much given an ultimatum. And the ultimatum was, make it happen. And without thinking too much about it, as Cheryl Hitchcock knows, I turned around and said, well, sure, we'll make that happen. And then I met George and really just was really kind of blown away with his continued love for Morgan and the talent that he had and his obvious desire to bring that to a historical, significant place like we have today. And then I went out to USC. I was out there on some business, and I was walking around the campus, and I saw the way that they had portrayed their athletic history around the perimeter of the playing field at USC. And I took some photos of that and then sent those to George and told George, make something happen. And this is what he made happen. So what you see here is truly his vision and a rendering of his artistic skill. And what we thought was going to be something that we could do in 3 months turned out to be 2 to 3 years in the making, but it is all worth it. And so with that said, a very, very special thanks to George Knox, international sculptor, and truly the brainchild for this project. And George was not only an All-American football player who played for the Washington Redskins, but as you will see by the magnificent portrayal of Coach Hurt and Coach Banks, he's one of this country's top artists. And so George, we thank you for your love of Morgan. We thank you for your outstanding talent. Woot woot. Okay? So at this point, it is really my honor to bring forward the Honorable Mayor of the City of Baltimore, a two-time alum of Morgan State University, one of our incredible cheerleaders, no pun intended, and it just a delight for us to have worked so closely with her since she has been in her position as mayor, and even before that when she was in the state legislature. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Catherine Pugh.
First, let me just say to the Morgan State University Board of Regents, its chairman, Kwaisi Mfume, and you all should know, I know every time I go to a dedication here at Morgan State University, I remind folks that he used to run our radio station, of which, I was one of your radio students who actually got to learn how to be a communications person, so thank you again for that. And to the Board of Regents, all of the members, thank you for this as well. And to the great Dr. Wilson, I cannot tell you how proud you make us every single day of this institution of which we all hold so dear in our hearts. And I'm also standing here on behalf of all of the cheerleaders of Morgan State University. Hey, go Bears! And we just want a little inscription somewhere in here. I'm just saying, it was hard work. You know, we did get to meet the football players before everybody else did, but we want y'all to know it was hard work. We too had to keep up our grades. You know, I got to cheer in Yankee Stadium, yes, on behalf of the Bears, and we were just so excited. Effie, thank you so much for being here. The Banks family was like family to me because I not only got to be a cheerleader under the tutelage of Earl Banks, but we got to know the family as well. I see so many of the football players that I had an opportunity to cheer for, and I tell you, it was indeed a joy. And George, we cannot thank you enough for your artistic talent that you share with the rest of the world. We're so grateful that you get to share it here at your own alma mater. And Mr. Lanier is so grateful to see you again, and thank you for all that you've done for Morgan State University. I'm not going to call all the football players' names. I see you all out there. It was a joy to cheer for many of you who were there when I was here at Morgan State University. But I am so excited that we're doing this here today, to salute our own, to honor those who came before us, but more importantly, those who have led so many and has meant so much to so many of each of us. I tell folks that we as cheerleaders also came under the tutelage of what we call Papa Bear Earl Banks, because when we traveled at that time, I don't know if they still do, but we traveled with the football team and we traveled with the basketball team, and it was important that we learn to act like ladies. And I'll never forget this. Cheerleaders used to say, put on your jeans and your cheerleading jacket, and I'd always wear a suit. And people was like, why? I said, because we're representing Morgan State University, and you don't know who we're going to meet or who we're going to come in contact with. So I'm here to represent. But I can tell you, I am proud every single day for what Morgan State University has done for me. I tell people this is where I grew up. This is where I became an adult. This is where I developed my leadership skills, and I give honor and praise to God every day for great parents who also taught me that I could be anything that I wanted to be, and Morgan State University prepared us for this. But let me just say, to walk by here, to see this, and to know that there's a tribute to the greatness of two individuals who gave so much to all of us. So I'm excited. I thought about doing a cheer here today, but I won't. Somebody asked me, they said, can you still do those cartwheels that they used to call front wheels when I was here? Yes. Can you still do those backward flips? No. But I still come down every homecoming. This is homecoming weekend. Down on the field with the Morgan State University cheerleaders who cheered for great football, great basketball, and believe it or not, Dr. Wilson, I used to also cheer for baseball, and people used to say, we had one cheerleader, right, Dwayne, who would come out for every single sport, because I believe they too deserve to be cheered for, whether you were swimming, playing basketball, football. If I knew about golf back then, I might have cheered for them as well. But again, what cheerleading taught us was leadership skills, camaraderie, and how to work together. And sports does that for all of us, and that's why we're so proud of the individuals that will be unveiled here, but for what they partake and gave to each and every single last one of us as cheerleaders, as sports figures, and those who've gone on to represent Morgan in such a great way. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you.
We're going to move right along, and I have no stories. I'm finished with the stories. Quasi done called me out. I can't do it anymore. Our state senator, Nathaniel McFadden, a gentleman who's here on campus all the time in the athletic department, supporting us in so many different ways. Let's give a hand for Senator McFadden.
Thank you, Joe.
You got it, sir.
Kathy was running for office for a long time. She's a great cheerleader for Baltimore City, too. Great job. Good morning. God is good. And all the time, God is good. Isn't this a wonderful day? George, now. Sit downstairs and Frenchie, Fuqua, and Tom, and all of us playing chess and doing different things. It's a wonderful day. Dr. Wilson, Kwaisi Mfume, how are you, sir? What's wrong with your hand? You broke it? Oh, Omega. Oh, down. Oh, okay. Well, if you want to go to heaven when you die, you got to be a Kappa Alpha Psi, man. Don't even start there. Don't even go there. Iota Phi Theta. Why they scroll? Wow, this is a great day. Several months ago, we dedicated the Jenkins building over on the Northwood side where we couldn't go. A couple of weeks ago, we did the Calvin and Tina Tyler Ballroom on that corner to make our campus look so beautiful. And today we do something that I'm going to be proud of Sunday when I go down and watch the Ravens and the Bears, because I walk in Gate A, and they have a plaza with John Unitas and Ray Lewis. And I'm going to say, you go up to Morgan. You go up to 1700 block of East Cold Spring Lane. And we have our own legends. Eddie P. Hurt, Trackman, solid. Sam LaBeach, wonderful leader. Just a tremendous leader, 54 games. And then Earl Papa Bear Banks. Everybody was champ. And everybody talked about the athletic accomplishments. But back then, if you didn't go to class and you didn't keep them grades, son, give me that meal ticket, right? Take my stuff off and leave it right here. Because he was building leaders. And he was a businessman too. So he did a lot of great things. Your father did a lot of great things, Raymond. Great things in building and developing leaders at Morgan. 49 years ago I got here, Martina, I'm gonna say it, and George, all of us, Tom, we were here struggling. We didn't have that much, but we had each other. And athletics was a place where those that had that skill set, because I had to bring Bob Wade up here from East Baltimore, poor fella. I'm glad Carolyn's still holding him out of Dunbar High School, and I said, okay, he's gonna be were you a physical education major? So we had to get the papers together, and I'd do it and give it to Carolyn type it, and next thing I know, you're a big time football player. It's just been a great journey because these gentlemen like George and Willie have gone out not only on athletic ability, but giving back. Willie and I were talking a couple minutes ago about Tom's great academic preparation program. Here's this young guy from Texas, and I mean, we came here, we used to have to make our little suitcases, a brown bag, or bring it in here. And he's just giving back continuously. Generations yet unborn, and those that are here today. I have a grandson that graduated several years ago. I have a daughter that's in the School of Business. I have a senior at Western that I want to come to Morgan and walk by and see this history and see the legacy and see what God has given to this university and what this university is given to giants and leaders. Second to none. Somebody called Mr. Trump and let him know that we don't do phony photo ops with historic black college presidents. We produce leaders and visionaries. We are the best. Don't take no mess. Get bad in a minute, jump in your chair.
The next couple of individuals, they hold a very special part in my life because my first college football game, 50 years ago, and I know that's a small number to a lot of you out here, because I was telling people on campus this will be my 50th homecoming. They said, "Dag, Joe, you don't look that old." But my grandfather brought me to the Morgan, North Carolina A&T homecoming in 1967. It was a Memorial Stadium. I remember that game like it was yesterday, because we were in the middle of a win streak, and at halftime, we were getting beat down. I'm gonna tell you, we were getting beat down bad. And I don't know what Earl Banks went in there and said at halftime, but man, we came out. The Bears, I tell you, they came out and they won that game, and it was my first college football game, and I'll never forget it, at Memorial Stadium. It was our 100-year anniversary. And the next couple of people I'm going to introduce, I think they played in that game. Our NFL Hall of Famer, Mr. Willie Lanier.
Number 63. Yes, sir. Good morning. This is a wonderful event, and my sitting next to George Knott and the history that all of us have had by coming to Morgan. I didn't play in that game in 1967. I had left and gone to Kansas City. That was my rookie year. As I was sitting next to Dr. Wilson and thinking about all that has gone on in the 54 years since I came here, and quickly how I came was one that I was not recruited by Morgan State. A teammate of mine, classmate in Richmond, Gilbert Carter, quarterback, was recruited by Morgan. That summer, in maybe July, I was supposed to be going to Virginia State, Petersburg, south of Richmond. I was concerned about graduating 4 years later, being in the Deep South, segregation being what it was, opportunities maybe not being as good. Football had nothing to do with it. So I decided, without talking to my parents, that I would reach out to Baltimore. I'd reach out to Earl Banks, an opportunity to go to school. So I called Earl Banks in July of 1963. Told him my name was Willie Lanier. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. I want to go to your school. He said, "Son, I don't know anything about you. What do you need to know?" He said, "I need to see film and I need to see a transcript." I said, "Fine." I sent it to him. So he was intrigued. So he meets me down at the Greyhound bus station. I'm about 6'1", my height. I weigh about 240 pounds, and I'm very serious. So he says that you have to take the entrance exam, which was fine. I scored in the top 10% in the incoming freshman class. He then said, "But son, we don't have any money." I said, "I didn't ask you for money." I said, "I want to go to your school." So I also said to him that my academic and athletic work would be sufficient, that whatever you need to do after, yes, I paid for that first semester, first year, you will do it. And that's how I came to the school. So by expressing that point of reference, this university and what it has done with Eddie Hurt and Earl Banks and all of the young men who participated in the sport, as well as women, with the cheerleaders and their great work, all of that molded us to become those who could compete anywhere at any time in the world. It allowed me to be this defined first black middle linebacker to play in the National Football League. And the thing that I always made sure the coaches understood was that all of my training came from here. I became a starter in the NFL the fourth game of my rookie year. I was able to play for 11 years and end up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I want them to understand that they did not do that. It came from here. And it was important that everyone understood it came from here. And my reference point then in appreciating Eddie Hurt and Earl Banks became one of then meeting a George Knott and seeing his great talent, his great skill at being able to unfold the work that he's done personally for me in Richmond, because I have a bronze that he did for me about 12 years ago. One is in the Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Fame in Kansas City, the other is in my home, and his detail was exquisite. So his great skill and ability has always been something that I've appreciated, and we've had many men. As I look around this plaza and I see faces that go back all those years, and many who've achieved great things in their lives because they came from this institution. and it's always been such a tremendous positive that you can take so much from that. I'll finish shortly because this is the 50th year since I was a rookie in the National Football League. And there have been a few significant things. Dr. Wilson and I were down in Houston, and we had the opportunity for all those men from historically black colleges to be recognized by the National Football League. I had the opportunity in June of this year to be with 18 Hall of Famers, the owner of the New England Patriots, and we traveled to Israel for 8 days. If any of you have not had the opportunity to go there, to be there, it was one of the most thrilling 8 days of my life. But I thought about the fact that 50 years ago, the National Football League was not taking people who looked like me to play that position. 50 years later, I'm on a 747 charter out of Boston, and I happen to be in the cockpit as we come across the Mediterranean Sea, heading into Ben Gurion International Airport, Tel Aviv, Israel. And I can think back and say, I came from Morgan. And all of that is just the kind of continuation of those things that are part of our history, those things that will be part of our future, and those things to give credit to all that Morgan has been, will be, and can be. So I thank all of you for being here. And I'll finish with Tom Dean, because his program that I saw a number of years ago was as inspiring as anything I have ever seen in terms of how you mold people for the opportunity and jobs to go forward in the future. I was at the African American Museum last night, and I will align something which you do as I talk to Dr. Wilson with a gentleman named Robert F. Smith. He donated $20 million for that facility in Washington. He gave $40 million to the United Negro College Fund. He has a STEM program where he's trying to reach out for as many people as possible to achieve, and you can be a part of that kind of success. Thank you for being here today.
Let me ask you, was there a prouder Super Bowl moment in this past Super Bowl when they introduced all of the HBCU Hall of Famers, and Willie Lanier came out, and Leroy Kelly came out, and they had pictures of Roosevelt Brown and Lynn Ford. Morgan was well represented. I'd like to introduce one of the greatest high school basketball coaches and also a great football player, who I met actually when he was trying out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He doesn't remember it. He came by my house. My grandfather told him, look, you need to stop by my kid's house, and I think we fed him dinner that time. I was just a young kid, but Bob Wade took the Dunbar High School basketball program. I followed them all over the place. I think they were the best high school basketball program in the history of all time. There was never a high school program as well put together as the one that was put together at Dunbar High School. And he's a Morgan alumnus. Mr. Wade.
Boy, I tell you, Mac, you're too much. Dr. Wilson, Madam Mayor, the Banks family, and to the Hurt family, good morning. It's really an honor to have been invited to speak at this occasion today, the unveiling and dedication ceremony for Coaches Edward P. Hurt and Earl C. Banks. When I reflect on my remembrance of Coach Earl Banks, I see a middle passage. It was a passage from youth to manhood and responsibility. It took 4 demanding football seasons, and it was led by a little guy from a predominantly black institution who was a legend long before I stepped foot on this football field. He gave me the opportunity to participate on this great football team. It was simple. He helped us with reality therapy. And he would always say, you're a black man, and nothing is owed to you. With that as a basic building block, it was clear that all of us had to proceed forward and learn our way in the starting lineup and in life. There were no compromises with Coach Banks, no alternatives. Coach Banks wanted his student athletes to participate in football, but it was more important to him that his student athletes earned their degrees from Morgan State University with the ability to confront and preserve through the challenges of life. It was simple, he would always say. If things got tough, or the goings got tough, you got tougher. He talked about how much we must challenge ourselves to face the odds and win or lose with our best efforts. Coach Banks was truly an architect of character. On behalf of myself and others who played under Coach Banks, I would like to express our profound gratitude and love for a man who was our guiding light in our lives, for he helped us make us the successful individuals that we are today. And finally, to my teammate, George Knott, who I fondly call P-Head. I gave George that name years ago, P-Head. I would like to convey to you, George, our sincere appreciation for your outstanding workmanship in bringing these two magnificent statues to life. So please join me once again in thanking George. Thank you.
No, this is homecoming. It is homecoming. This is a special homecoming for me because, I mean, all these faces. I mean, remember, most of you were upperclassmen when I came to Morgan, but this one gentleman I'm about to introduce, he was the father of my roommate. We had a roommate for 2 years, and he was like a second father to me. I used to go to Washington, D.C. and hang out down there, and he used to take me to New York to his brother's house. Mr. Samuel LaBeach of the class of 1952 was an Olympic track star for Eddie P. Hurt. He's in our Hall of Fame. One of our great varsity M members, Mr. Samuel LaBeach.
It is indeed my honor to give remarks in the dedication of the statue of Edward P. Hurt. I represent the countless number of former athletes who can attest to the fact that Coach Hurt is one of the greatest coaches in American history. No other coach can surpass his versatility in being outstanding in 3 different sports. I will give a few examples of his talents in the 3 different sports. First, in football, the team won 14 CIAA championships from 1932 to 1939. His team played 54 games without a defeat, one of the longest unbroken streaks on record. Second, Coach Hurt coached the basketball team during his term, and 3 of those 3 years, 1931, 32, and 33, won the CIA championship. And thirdly, that's where I come in, track and field. In track and field, history was made in 1950 when Morgan State College broke the Carnival record in the championship mile relay of America at the Penn Relays. This record stood that we broke for 55 years. Morgan College was referred to at that time was the first college in history to gain widespread national honors. Time magazine, Sports Illustrated, and all the other magazines and newspapers featured the team in their sports sections. Coach Hurt received special invitation from the Los Angeles Coliseum Relays to compete and was very successful. The team continued to win at the prestigious Melrose Games in New York and other prestigious meets. The team won were in Philadelphia, Inquirer Meet, Boston Armory Meet, DC, and Maryland Armory Meets. Due to the popularity of the historic Mile League team during that era, many track runners were attracted and came to Morgan College. The foursome of Samuel Beach, Bob Tyler, Bill Brown, and George Roden were the pioneers who set the stage for future runners to make Morgan College, now Morgan State University, a powerhouse in track and field under the guidance of Coach Pete Hurt. It must be noted that because of segregation and prejudice during this era, the 1949 team was disqualified on a trumped-up charge. Due to the genius of Coach Hurt, his team produced 8 individual NCAA champions, 12 national AAU champions, 1 record holder in the 1952 Olympic Games, 1 third-place finisher in the 56 Olympic Games, and 3 other Olympians who made the Olympic team. Coach Hurt has accomplished so many other feats. I will just highlight a few of them. We won 18 track and field championships in the CIAA meets, won 11 championship events at the Penn Relays, selected as coach at the Pan American Games in 1959, served on the Olympic Committee from 1960 to 1972, served as coach for track and field team in 1964 at the Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan. Was named the NCAA Indoor Track Coach of the Year in 1970, elected to the Hall of Fame in 1972, elected to the National Track and Field Hall of Fame of the USA in 1975, received the Governor's Award for 40 years of service to the state of Maryland. Coach Hurt was known nationally in all areas in the United States of America, but after his accomplishment in track and field, Coach Hurt was known internationally. Coach Hurt was a builder of character and champions in men. Many of the former athletes he coached went on to become doctors, teachers, coaches, businessmen, administrators, and Hall of Famers. Coach Hurt has received many honorary degrees and received an LL degree from Morgan State College in 1970. He served as an athletic director before his retirement. It is indeed fitting that this statue will serve as a living testament for the years to come as one of the greatest coaches in U.S. history. Thank you.
Tom, actually, I do have one more story. I remember in 1976 when, Morgan State played the first football game outside of the Western Hemisphere. We went to Tokyo, Japan, played Grambling. And about 4 weeks before the game, Coach Hurt, myself, and head coach Henry Lattimore had to fly to Tokyo. And I remember we flew to Los Angeles and we had to go into Honolulu, Hawaii, and they messed our tickets up. And they told us that we can't get you out of here until the next day. And one of the supervisors came out and he saw Earl Banks. And he knew exactly who Earl Banks was. He knew what Morgan State University was about, and he knew Eddie P. Hurt. And he got us on the very next flight going to Tokyo, Japan. That's how far reached Earl Banks and Eddie P. Hurt went. They were internationally known. And it just amazed me because I was just a young guy. It was my first year being a sports information. I was probably about 22 years old. I was in total amazement because here I was in Honolulu, Hawaii, and they're telling me I have to spend the night here, and I'm getting ready to go to Tokyo, Japan. I'm terrified. But I'm with Earl Banks. And when you're with Earl Banks, you are in good hands. Next, we're going to have the great niece of Coach Hurt, Mrs. Sherry Cunningham Cragway.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to ask my family to please stand. To Dr. David Wilson and the leadership of this great university, platform guests, Mayor Catherine, and all others, I greet you in the name of the family of the late Eddie P. Hurt. As you know, I'm Sherry Cunningham Cragway, and I'm the wife of Coach Hurt's great nephew, Robert Cragway. Wonderful man. My husband, Robert, asked me to say a few words on behalf of the Cragway family. And so I will start out by saying, thank you, Mr. Knotts. Now I can hug it. I say that because when I had to go approve the sculpture, the clay sculpture, as one of the family members, I said, well, where's Jan? You know, it's like somebody, where, you know. I said, okay. I went over there, and when I saw it, I just wanted to hug it. It looked just like Wink. He made me cry when I saw that. You are bad. And even Coach Banks, I wanted to go hug Papa Bear. So, and I also like to thank all those who were involved in this wonderful honor that's being bestowed on our family member. Today we are humbled by the acknowledgement of Wink. That's what he was affectionately called by Billy Reed Cragway. And forever grateful to Morgan State University for all the blessings that it has bestowed on our family through our affiliation with this great university. You see, we have had 4 generations of our family to matriculate here at this great university. You see, it started out in 1931 with Nana, G. Beatrice Reed Hurt, and 1946 and 48 with Billy and Roy Cragway, and then 76 with Roy Cragway Jr., and 1980 with my Robert, and personally ending with our daughter, Rachel Cragway, in 2013. As Robert and his brother Roy were growing up, they lived together in Morgan Park with their parents, Coach Hurt and Mom Hurt. And for many years, they were exposed to campus as a result of the 40 years of Coach and what he spent here teaching and coaching at this school. So they participated in the Jesse Owens tournaments and summer camp and spent many years while Wink was doing his job. Spent many years with their friends, Dwayne and Gary Press, running around the campus. This caused them in their formative years to have a great appreciation for the school, which was known then as Morgan State College. As they observed so many celebrities and famous personalities who visited him, the numerous athletes and students whom he had coached in both football and track and field, they began to see how special he was and how wonderfully he was loved. And one thing he would do, I would like to end this with a memory of a poem he used to state. And a lot of you athletes that are present will probably remember this. I'm tired of sailing my little ship close to the harbor bar. I want to get out in the deep, out where the big ones are. And if my frail craft should prove too weak to sail the deep sea o'er, I'd rather go down in the deep than to be lulled to death by the shelter shore. Yes, Wink. So thank you once again for this tremendous honor and for the many pleasurable memories that our family, can you stand up again, Morgan grads, for all the relationships that we have garnered with this school, even our children. Hurt has really developed a great love for this school, and we will always love it, and glad to be affiliated with the great Morgan State University. And I think
Next up, the Reverend Dr. Raymond Banks, Sr.
I rise today giving honor to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ because he's worthy to be praised, declaring that it is no secret what God can do for what he's done for Hurt and Banks. He'll do for you. It is an honor and privilege to stand on behalf of the Banks family to say a word about the coach, but to the regents, Honorable Mayor, Dr. Wilson, dignitaries, government officials, coaches, players, clergy assembled, and our presiding officer. My assignment is to just say a word, but before I do that, let me introduce some of the family members that are here. Mother Essie Moloch Banks, our mother and widow of the coach. "90 years young." Her designated driver today is her cousin, Clarence Moloch. He's somewhere around there. Where Clarence is. My wife, Henry Boyd Banks, who works here on the campus in the Office of Development. My sister, who's right in line behind me, Yvonne Marie Banks. And my brother, who flew all the way in from Chicago, Minister Alfredo Calvin Banks. Amen. I was told that I was given 3 minutes to say a few words and what this unveiling means to the family. I have not talked to them, but I pray that what I have to say will be fitting and proper, especially during a time where statues are being taken down for various reasons. And so if you'll let me reference 3 hours and I'll get out of the way. The first aura is replica. When that tarp comes down, it will be a resurrected image and photo snap of Papa Bear. Yes, pigeon toes, droopy pants, and Morgan cap. But the replica does not encapsulate the man's character or his value. The second one is relationship. The relationship that he had with Morgan State University, his coaches and his players that you have heard from, and even his family. The many man hours that he spent on the football field and on the practice field. And the number of ball players that stayed in the house so they could get situated on the campus. But we as a family had to learn that he did not just belong to us. We have to share him. And the third aura is called remembrance. Remembrance. He came here in 1960 at the age of 36. On October the 28th, 1993, he left us at the age of 69.
I don't know how you did it, but 49 years ago, on October the 12th, 1968, the Maryland Classic game was played. And Morgan beat Maryland State 19-18 to go on for that 31 consecutive game. And I left the field that day, head hung low, tears in my eyes, and the coach walked over to me and he said, "Raymond, you are the enemy, but I want to give you this game ball." I don't know why he did, and who would have thought that when he gave this ball to a young 22-year-old kid that 49 years later, that a statue would be erected in his honor. I had the unfortunate position to be the place kicker holder. And I had a bird's eye view of when our kicker hooked the ball and missed that extra point. Because we would have at least tied the game. So those of you who are still here that played in that game, come see me before you go, because I want you to sign the ball. And finally, it is a reminder that he said, nothing comes to a sleeper but a dream. It is a reminder that he said, can you go when you're tired? It's a reminder that he said, will you be there when the grass turns green? It's a reminder that he said, come here, champ. Your job is to get to that quarterback. And I don't care if you have to go through him, if you have to go over him, or you have to go around him. But get there. And if Jesus Christ is on the full come Saturday on that field, knock him down and go to church on Sunday and ask for forgiveness. He said, you got to rise and shine and meet the glory. It's a new day, but the same old story. He said, ain't no sense in going home. Jody's got your girl and gone. He said, you got to rise and shine. And back to the mines, you swines, there'll be no strike today. He said, football is a means to an end. You ask me what this unveiling means? It's a reminder that Earl Carey Banks passed this way, and his legacy lives on. Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Essie. Thank you, George. Thank you, family. Tell Morgan.
Before we move on, there's a couple more dignitaries I'd like to recognize. Regent Dr. Linda Gilliam, would you please? She's back here in the back. How you? Also, Delegate Angela Gibson. There she is. Thank you for coming and being a part of this wonderful, wonderful activity. Yes, Robert Bell. Oh, Judge Robert Bell. Oh, Judge Bell, how you doing? Now I want to bring someone to the podium that hasn't been with us long, but he is a family member now. Met him almost about a year ago now in his interview for the position. And I tell you, when I first met him, I knew he was the man for the job. I was so happy when Dr. Wilson decided to select this gentleman to lead our athletic program. Let's give a hand to Mr. Edward Scott, Director of Athletics, Morgan State University.
Well, good afternoon. I know it's been somewhat of a lengthy program, and we want to get to the unveiling, and I know I'm before Mr. Knock, so I will be very brief. But there is one thing that I do want to say to all the players here that played for Coach Hurt and Coach Banks. Can you raise your hand, please? Please give them a round of applause. I think it's very important that we recognize one thing, and it's been talked about in various ways today, but the bond between a coach and a student athlete. We know about the wins, we know about the successes of Coach Hurt and Coach Banks, but what they left behind is a legacy in the lives that they touched. And it's evidenced by the individuals that came from far and wide to be here today. And while I didn't have the privilege of getting to know them, playing for them, being around them and learning from them, what I do know, and I know for certain, is that all of you are better off for being part of their lives and them being part of your lives. I will also say this, these programs are tough to put together, and if you know anything about Dr. Wilson, he moves at a rapid pace, and so do I, so there's two people that we definitely have to thank today. The first is Ms. Cheryl Hitchcock for helping plan this activity. And the second is Ms. Kim McCalla. She's in the back all bundled up, but with all the building that we have going on campus, it's not possible without the support of those two individuals. The other thing I'd like to say is, as a new athletic director, I'm almost in my first year. My goal is to be a good steward of the tradition and history of Morgan State athletics, and to be able to move us forward into the next generation of student athletes that give back and that are proud to be a part of the Morgan family. So on Friday at 5:30, our women's volleyball team will be playing in Hill Fieldhouse. We hope to see you there. And then I expect to see you here on Coach Banks Field when we beat Savannah State at 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Dr. Wilson told me one thing when I took this job. He said, young man, we take a back seat to nobody. And under my leadership, as we move this forward, we will not take a back seat to anybody. So thank you for coming out. I'm honored, I'm privileged to be your Director of Athletics, and go Bears.
Before the program started, I saw our head football coach, Fred Ferrier. Is he still here? Oh, there he is, Fred. My name is Fred Ferrier, head football coach at Morgan State. And now, the man, the legend, the artist. I'm going to ask everyone to please stand because, I mean, he deserves a standing applause. Mr. George Knock, the brainchild of the Legends Plaza. You got that Earl Banks walk, too.
I get everything on. It's hard to beat this talent that's come up here to speak. That's spoken before me, but at the same time, if you go from your heart, you got to be a winner. Yeah. First things first. From whence I came is from Philadelphia. I like to introduce my family because they are an extension of me, because I'm the oldest kid and they said I beat on them and guided them, but I did it in the same way my mom did. So will y'all take a stand for me, please? And this is only half of my sisters and brothers. The other thing is that when many of us came here, we really didn't know what we were up against until you walked on campus. You looked at the guys that are walking with you and trying to size them up and say, is he a guard? Is he a running back? And stuff like that. But during that age, we came during summer and no one was here but us. And Our camaraderie started off right from the beginning. We fought, we chided, we pissed each other off to the highest level. One of my best friends, I was getting ready to go fight with him the second day. Why? He had a pea head too. That was Tom D. And the thing about it, as we were on campus on a daily basis and learning to understand who each other were, understanding the guidance that we were going to get, even though we had the Coach Banks, we had those assistant coaches that fill the voids and fill the whole plateau of what we were going to be about. And I remember prior to coming to Morgan, I didn't know where I was going to go to school. And I was looking into Ebony one day and I said, oh, Morgan State, Baltimore. I was born in Baltimore, but I raised in Philly, so I said, I'm gonna go back. So on coming down here, I said, well, they have green grass, and I'm from the city of Philly. We didn't have much of that. So, but all in all, when I started meeting first the coaches, Coach Banks, I had heard that he was bragging about me, but when I got here, I couldn't run. My leg, I had stepped in a hole, and that was when Champ Flaky called me tumbleweeds. Because every time I'd run, I'd fall. And everybody just laughed. I said, oh man, this is so embarrassing. But the thing that was inspiring is that I had to win. I had to win. I had to get up, dust that little body off, and go back in there. So nothing was healed until maybe, I think the 7th game or something like that, and the season's over. But on doing that and going through all of that and learning and interacting with everybody on this campus, it was the bomb, I'm telling you, because when you're growing up together and you're experiencing that transition from a kid to manhood, and the interrelationships that you get with everyone that you meet, and like right now, I can see everybody's faces, and I can see their faces 50 years ago when we were on campus. And I can think of things that we did together or said this, that, and the other, and it'll come back to me. And those are the things I bring with me when I do my work. When I start to think about what to do or the experience of creating something that's going to last for a lifetime, because I remember the time I switched from paper canvas to bronze. I was in a convention in LA, and I had a suite on the top floor of one of these high-rise hotels. So I woke up about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I went out on my balcony and said, ooh, this is pretty out here. So when I grabbed the balcony moved about 6 yards. And when it was moving out, I said, if you can't fly, you die. So on the way back 6 yards, I said, oh man, no one will ever know I was here. No legacy. Paper and canvas would be destroyed. And as soon as I get back home, I'm going to become a bronze sculptor. And that was but all of that goes to say that every one of you here, I appreciate you coming. I really do. Because you've fallen in line with a legacy that we wanted to do a long time ago. And we got the opportunity to do it so we can say, hey, let this be the start of us recognizing our own. Let's put something together that we can say, we did it back then, we can do it again. And so these are the things and the reasons why I looked at this project as being personal, yes, for you, for everyone that has gone to Morgan, everyone who's known about Morgan or heard about Coach Banks, Coach Hurt, or the legacy of the Morgan Bears. All of these things were what was on my mind to have these people enshrined in bronze. And if we can continue that legacy in life, we'll be happy with those that we met, those that we will get in the future, and everything will be stronger in our lives. So I thank you, and I hope you do appreciate what I tried to do for all of us. Because when Dr. Wilson when we were in Florida, we talked about, well, what are we going to do? I said, yes, we can do the bus. We can do the bus. Then all of a sudden, he said, well, you think we should leave it there? And he said, well, we're trying to come up with a name. I said, why don't you say? He said, Legends Plaza. So I said, well, that means we got to have some space. So it was funny how it came about, but I had to disclose it. He said, well, let's make 6-foot sculptures. I said, okay, that's good. Then the next conversation we had, he said, you gonna find out a place where to put it? I said, you want me to find? I said, yeah, I'll find a place where to put it. So then I said, okay, we're gonna get, I said to myself, are we gonna get an architect to build it? He said, oh, you do it. I said, oh man. And that's the way this project started. That's the way it grew. And I didn't want to let my boys down, so I just took it on my mantle and my shoulders to do what we have to do. And hopefully everyone will enjoy it for years to come. George.
You didn't need it. Ms. Hitchcock, how are we going to the unveiling part? Can we have the first row please come up? No? Dr. Wilson. Regents, please.
Get the players. All of them? Okay, he wants all the players.
All of the athletes, former athletes, please come up. Families.
I'm gonna get this picture. Hey there, how are you?
I need to sign you up. Oh, you're good, man.
Let me get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
Let me get out. Let me get out.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, I saw you over there, man. There we go. There we go.
Their names.
Okay, I'm supposed to send it to Tanya to put on the Hey, what's going on, man? Good seeing you. Yeah, I know. Come on, Milk. How you doing, man? Yes, it is. Hey, Luke. Give me your address, man. Okay. When the stuff come up, fellas want to get together, we can include you, man. Because we were doing some things, and they actually honored us at the yeah, and everybody was seeing me. They thought about it. Harry Williams came to Detroit. Yeah, right. What's your name? Rob. I'm gonna call you. Okay. How you been? Oh, what's the question? You have my number on there. How you doing? I'm working. You okay? Hey, David. Hey, David.
We need to make sure everybody knows.
I just want to get ready to do. You get me proud. Did they turn it off? Before you leave, there is a reception in the Student Center, room 316. Reception in the Student Center in room 316.
It was so funny.
So you're not used to me. Dean, how are you?
you? Did Courtney send you everything? Did she send you your birthday? Yeah, I saw it. Thank you. Hi, how you playing? I'm good.
If they don't know, listen, I mean, people go through everywhere I go. Like, you gotta listen to them and stuff.
Okay. Show them at 5, that means like the episode from the day before, right? Yeah, but